and welcome to the Daily Space Weather. We'll be showing you what we can with our currently limited bandwidth. Thanks again to RCN for providing horrendous internet coverage. Here's the sun in colorized magnetogram from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. Very large sunspot rising here in the northeast. Some activity coming out of sunspot 2880. Let's take a look at the coronagraphs. No fireworks on them yet at Lagrange point 1, where the LASCO C2 and C3 are located. Expect to see some soon, as we've got a coronal mass ejection warning in effect. Solar flare warning also in effect. Expect to see some activity on these in the very near future. Here's 171 angstroms from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. We'll zoom in a little bit here in the northern hemisphere, where most of the activity is. Great imagery there from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. The radio flux has dropped down, I think. I don't really remember where it was. I've been a little bit occupied doing a lot of things to memorize the radio flux. I'm not doing it. But anyway, the radio flux comes from the upper chromosphere and lower corona. And it's the most proportional data set to sunspot number. Here's the black line. This is the 10.7 centimeter radio flux. The red line is the sunspot number. Looks like it's at like 86 at the moment. Yeah, 86 there according to the Space Weather Enthusiasts dashboard. Let me just press refresh and hope for the best. There we go. No space weather storms in the forecast at the moment. When we see the coronal mass ejection that we've been warning about, that might change. Let's take a look at global seismicity real quick here. There's the bar graph for the past 90 days. There was at least one 6 magnitude quake. Let's see what's going on. So no major quakes here. The largest of the past 24 was a 6.1, I believe, down in the South Sandwich Islands there, in the middle of the South Atlantic Ocean there, near the South Atlantic/Antarctic plate boundaries. Iran saw a 5.6. Okay, that was actually a 6.2, folks, at the South Sandwich Islands region. New Zealand saw a 5.5 north of it in the Kermadec Trench area, the ocean rift zone, northeast of New Zealand. Let's look at volcanoes. And what's on the list for today, October 4th? Well, looks like Fuego's on the list here. And there's some imagery of Subanose-jima. La Palma continuing to erupt in an explosive fashion. It's producing a 10,000-foot plume of volcanic ash in the eastern Atlantic Ocean area. Subanose-jima exploding, 12,000-foot ash plume there over the Ryukyu Islands. Popocatépetl, now back to an active state here in central Mexico, exploding 20,000-foot ash plume from Popocatépetl. Fuego exploding, 15,000-foot ash plume over Guatemala. Nevado del Ruiz exploding as well, 22,000-foot ash plume over Colombia. Sangay exploding, 19,000-foot ash plume in Ecuador. Revenador in that same country, 16,000-foot ash plume from Revenador. And intermittent emissions from Sabancaya have produced a 24,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. Please don't pole vault the caldera. Please do visit our links. You should find them below the video. You can find them at smAsho.com as well. Thanks to everybody who picked up merch. I would invite you all to Mensa, Make Earth Not Suck Again, and to Mansa, Make America Not Suck Again. It's up to you, not giant heaving bureaucracies that are unable to even get out of their own way, much less provide health advice to you. We're also on BitChute, were you aware? And don't forget to press like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content on YouTube. Tell your friends and foes about the channel. I don't think the algorithms are doing so. If you're a patron, please cancel your Patreon. Yeah, we've replaced Patreon, folks. We've replaced Patreon with something vastly superior. It's the Smash Team. You can find it at smashomash.com/smashteam. Here's a teaser of what we've been posting. That's about all you get. Again, you can find links at the homepage at smashamash.com. And welcome everybody in the sound of my voice. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Science, it's a rabbit hole. And often we enter the rabbit hole asking questions and not even getting the answers to the questions asked. But that's just the way it works, folks. Let's continue on. Oh, we're also on Twitch, did you know? Twitch.tv/smashamash. Look for more live streams coming there soon. Download the mobile app. It'll alert you when we go live. GOES magnetometer here over the past 3 days showing a little bit of spikiness and a little bit of divergence once again between the GOES 16 and GOES 17 measurements. Now they're located in near equatorial geosynchronous orbits at like 12,000 miles of altitude. And we're seeing a fairly normal range restored here to the GOES magnetometer. Let's take a look at more magnetic data. Here's the heliospheric current sheet polarity. And I think there is a south pole current sheet that may grow here. Don't be surprised to see this north pole current sheet shrink and a south pole one show up here at Earth. A little bit of magnetic indecision going on there, so we may see additional spiky sawtooth type readings here from the GOES magnetometers. Here's the line of sight view of the same data, essentially, the line of sight ecliptic plane field plot, as opposed to the top view. And again, I think there is a south pole current sheet headed our way. Here's a line of sight coronal hole plot. And we do see some trans-equatorial North Pole-oriented coronal holes here shown in green, rotating into the Earth-facing zone. There you can see those, and the fields associated with them. The blue lines here are the Sun's B field, the field that goes through a magnet. And here's our coronal hole animation from the SDO. 193 angstroms ionized iron is great at showing coronal holes. So these dark regions down here for you new viewers, those are the best visible ones. There are some over here that will probably gain a little bit of clarity over the next couple of days. Most likely spot to see a coronal mass ejection is from Sunspot 2880. It's the sort of the source of our coronal mass ejection warning. Also, the likelihood of large solar flares will increase as this approaches the limb. So we see large flares closer to the limb more often, folks. And as Sunspot 2880 gets closer to the limb, the likelihood of M and X-class flares goes up. Next, looking at solar flares. A couple of C-class intensifications showing up here on the last 3 days. No major flares. And when we say solar flare warning, we're talking about M and X-class flares. Again, expect to see Sunspot 2880, if it doesn't degrade, produce some more significant sunspots as it approaches the limb. No spikes in the proton flux. This may change if we see a coronal mass ejection with relativistic particles. Next, the real-time solar wind. Pretty uneventful here over the past 24. We see a subsiding of both the density and the speed. Solar wind speed about 350 kilometers per second. Solar wind density very diffuse here, 2.17 protons per cubic centimeter. Enough to produce a Kp index of 2. It's mainly produced from this negative Z component, and that will actually drop back down to 1 shortly, I would think. The Kp index is a measurement of global geomagnetism for you new viewers. Congratulations on realizing our channel exists. Next, geospace magnetosphere movies. 4 hours of data showing you where magnetohydrodynamic pressure is most likely to be according to the space weather modeling framework. This model is expressed in nanopascals magnetohydrodynamic pressure. And we see pretty homogeneous pressure here, mainly in the magnetotail side of the planet, as opposed to the bow shock side of the planet that faces the sun. How about ground magnetic perturbations? Changes to Earth's B field. Since we showed you the sun's, here are changes to the Earth's B field. The B field is a field that goes through a magnet, and geospace delta B would be changes to the field. This one's not in nanopascals. This is in nanotesla magnetic flux density. And we see pulses coming out of the center of the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Oceans. Some perturbations over Canada and at Antarctica, south of South America. So oftentimes when we see weak magnetism, that's the best time to see things, folks. It carries with weather phenomenon as well. We've got a video to put up about a fall streak hole that I saw yesterday while cycling. We'll post that as a separate video in our meteorology playlists. And check our playlists, youtube.com/smashamash/playlists. Here's a diagram of the solar system. Only 2 days until Smash Staff's birthday, folks. Don't forget to wish Smash Staff a happy birthday on the 6th. I think it's a new moon as well. Let's advance this 1 week. And there's where things will be in a week. Mars looking quite lonely as it swings around to catch up with Saturn and Jupiter on the opposite side of the sun. Next, a star chart. I've drawn in the galactic plane here. The blue line and the yellow line is the ecliptic, the path the sun will take across the sky. We've got a crescent waning up in the sky right now. It should be pretty good to view. Actually, it's raining outside, so it's not going to be visible at all where I'm located in Lehigh Valley. Today's cosmology segment is going to be very brief. We're only going to talk very briefly about the astronomy picture of the day. It looks like a merging galactic nucleus here, folks. 2 galaxies in the process of colliding with one another. Some spectacular imagery here at apod.nasa.gov. The astronomy picture of the day. Lots of X-rays coming out of that area right there. That area that's blue, that looks like a lot of X-ray emission, folks. I think we're looking at composite imagery here. And you can see 2 distinct galactic nuclei there in that galactic merge. You can look at it yourself at apod.nasa.gov. It's NGC New General Catalog 4676. When Mice Collide. I'm not seeing the mice, but hey, people have a lot of imagination when they're looking up in space. Continuing on, no random numbers today. We're going to look at Cygnus X-3 very briefly. And by the way, we're seeing something we've never seen before with Cygnus X-3, the star Deneb, the brightest intrinsic object visible from Earth. This slope right here, we don't have any moments like that in Cygnus X-3's quiescence. So it's in an extended quiescent period, of course not as extended as this one here, at least not yet. But this slope down that we've recently seen here is not the typical historic activity there. Those are hard X-rays, by the way, folks. That's the 16-year chart. Here's the 30-day chart. And we're hoping some radio astronomers sight this thing in while it goes from an X-ray quiet to an X-ray loud state. If you want to read more about it, head to our forum, smashamash.com/forum. There is an entire thread on our forum dedicated to it. Just head to smashamash.com/forum, go to the cosmology forum. You'll find a pinned post there with extensive information about Cygnus X-3, the most interesting object in the Milky Way galaxy, if not the entire universe, at least from the perspective of we Earthlings. And leave us a comment if you're viewing the videos from a different plane of existence, dimension, solar system, galaxy, planet, spaceship, etc. That's today's cosmology segment. Let's move on to charging hazards. We see some minor charging hazards over northern South America, the Caribbean, and Mexico and Central America. Those minor charging hazards should move soon into the Central Pacific Ocean. Here's a 1-year chart of the electron flux. Pretty low levels here. And we're expecting an increase coming in the next day or two. There's a 3-day chart of the electron flux, and you can see it is coming off the floor a little bit here. Here's the forecast model. I wouldn't tend to disagree with that. It looks good enough for me. The green boxes are the forecast. The yellow diamonds are the observation. Here's a diagram of Earth Van Allen belts. Most of those electrons are located down here in the inner Van Allen belt. Let's continue on to the total electron content forecast. So I'm expecting this to be fairly organized here, and indeed that is what we see. Total electron content forecast shows you the total electron content all the way from your GPS handset to your GPS satellite. Here's another diagram showing you where the F ionosphere layer is. It's about 300 kilometers of altitude. And we're seeing additional high-frequency anomalies here in the ionosphere. So like yesterday, lots of high-frequency anomalies. Probably some low-frequency ones as well, but mostly high-frequency. Here's the latest image from 8:45 Universal Time. Here's the anomaly map showing departure from the 30-day median in megahertz. So most low-frequency anomalies showing up in the northern hemisphere here, north of the equator. Overall, mostly high-frequency anomalies. There's the latest image there, 8:45 Universal Time. Ionogram, anomalygram. Happy Smashtober, by the way. Have you seen our meteorology segments? Check out all our playlists at youtube.com/smashamash/playlists. Let's look at the latest ground-based solar activity here from Lermonth, Australia. So here's the hydrogen alpha imagery from there. Again, keep an eye on this area. We've got a coronal mass ejection warning in effect. We expect to see one in the Earth vicinity. We'll also be looking at this sunspot here, although it's only alpha class at the moment. Likelihood of major solar flares going up as sunspot 2880 approaches the limb. Here's your latest intensity gram. Give that a minute to refresh. Thanks again, RCN. So sunspot 2880 has certainly degraded. It still certainly has the capability of producing major flares. Sunspot 2882, I believe this one is called. Just an alpha class sunspot, unlikely to produce major flares unless it grows some additional umbrae of opposite polarity. Anyway, there's the polarity of sunspot 2880. And again, it hasn't degraded enough to get rid of the solar flare warning. We'll close things out with this composite imagery. And you can see some activity kicking off here from sunspot 2880. Little bit of crackling there. Some plasma snapping around in those magnetic fields. Anyway, once again, congratulations on realizing our channel exists. Don't forget to click the links below the video and support the channel financially, as YouTube doesn't really seem to be on board with our promotion of things like facts. I guess there's not enough fraud and propaganda on our channel, and there never will be. In any case, thanks again for tuning in. May that solar wind be at your back.